This lecture is on critical engagement, which is a term meaning thinking. Really, it's about thinking about something, and that thing can be literature, art, music, film. It can even be a text message, a social media post, a photograph, a behavior, a conversation, a habit, a pattern, etc., etc. And thinking about whatever this thing is with depth, consideration, and an examination, and also questioning yourself and looking for data or evidence that casts further meaning upon whatever it is you're engaged with. I know this is all quite abstract right now, but I hope to make this clear to you by the close of this lecture. The objectives for this lecture are, I want us to look at terms, symbols, definitions, and the Guardian's advertisement on open journalism. I apologize if you can hear my son. We are both sick, so he cannot go to daycare for at least another week. So I have to work at home with him, so I do apologize. Looking at the Guardian's advertisement on open journalism, the Guardian is a British newspaper with a very strong online presence, and lecture on critically engaging with the advert. So I want us to really look at it, and I'm going to give you some ideas about how you might access it. So let's begin with terms. I want us to look at symbols and metaphor. Metaphor is it's just a form of a symbol. A metaphor is a comparison between two unlike things that have something in common. And it is a symbol in and of itself. So often why we're using symbols is to make something abstract concrete. So they're often associated with abstract thought or abstract feelings like love, loyalty, or even an abstract, um, just one moment. So for example, a symbol that represents a really abstract, but something that we often take for example is how a flag will represent a nation. So for example, if we look at, like you'll notice this Canadian flag, and I'm just like right here. It's actually made up of, you might not be able to see this, but faces. So an artist has created a Canadian flag made up of individual faces. And that's the idea behind that, of course, is that Canada is a mosaic. So symbolic meanings are very culturally derived, and they're really dependent upon personal and cultural and societal interpretations. For an example, in America, the symbol of a dove is a symbol for peace, and a balance scale is a symbol for justice. So a metaphor, and here I'm just giving you a definition. A metaphor is of course the part of speech it is a noun, and then I just break it down. But basically, the idea behind it is that it is comparing two things that you wouldn't expect to be connected, but they are, and they're connected usually through a writer, through film, through art. So here are some symbols that we're looking at, and you'll notice, like for example, let me just get this up. This is a ring, and it's only available in Canada, and engineering students receive this ring when they graduate from a Canadian university. This is, some of you may be familiar with it. It is a symbol for products, but also a symbol of affluence. This is a peace symbol, this one here, right here. This is a peace symbol. This is the symbol, it's a religious symbol, meaning, and it's Om, I believe. But we're seeing it a lot on a lot of Western white women are wearing it on necklaces and t-shirts. And I'm not sure if they fully comprehend its meaning. This, of course, is Starbucks. So we're not seeing Starbucks coffee or anything. We just recognize this symbol. And of course, this one here is a symbol again for a corporation, Mercedes-Benz, but we are seeing it linked to affluence. So our symbols often mean something beyond, like we associate certain behaviors with it, or a certain type of person, or we imagine a moneyed kind of thing behind it. So the Guardian's advertisement on open journalism, and what they did was they took the fairy tale, The Three Little Pigs, and kind of moved it in a variety of different directions. There are external links to the advertisement and the fairy tale on the weekly schedule of Moodle. So when you're looking at this week's um, tasks to do, you can see that there are two links that will take you directly to the advert as well as the fairy tale. If you're unfamiliar with the fairy tale, I suggest you read it. From what I've been told from other students in other nations, they have a similar fairy tale in their own cultures as well. So it should be fairly familiar to everyone. But if it isn't, please read the fairy tale, and then it helps fill in the advertisement. Connor Hickey, he did an analysis of this advertisement. There's a link available to read the whole of it. It's quite short. What's important is what I've quoted here, and by here I mean this section here is what's important. And it says the advert was designed, and this I'm quoting Connor Hickey. The advert was designed to portray the Guardian's approach to open journalism and how they would now cover a story such as The Three Little Pigs. The new approach by The Guardian encourages the open exchange of information, objective commentary on it, as well as current events. It conveys how a story will constantly evolve, as will the journalism as new facts come to light. The basis of the advert is to show the transformation of the news. It is no longer fed through one channel and one body, but through many. It highlights the Guardian's struggle to remain relevant in the evolution of technology. And so it's quite a brief, somewhat of a summary and analysis of the advertisement. But what do you think about his analysis? Like, for example, what do you think about when he is saying like objective commentary? Is there such a thing as objective commentary? Or is everything subjective and we can only make it appear objective? And he asks us to take for granted, to take him at his word that the news was fed through one channel and one body. What does he mean by that, do you think? So Colin Hickey suggests a few things in his quote. He's asserting or telling us that news was fed through one body and one channel. And in a manner, I think I see what he's asserting or trying to convince us of. For example, Dan Rather is often connected to the death of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy for his radio broadcasts from Dallas, Texas regarding the assassination. However, so is Walter Cronkite very connected for his news and his announcement of the death of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. So I actually don't know if I really agree that the news was ever fed through one channel and one body. So I'm not convinced. He has not convinced me. He hasn't given me any evidence. He's just asserting something and assuming I'm going to believe it. Um, he mentions old media and new media, and old media refers to media simply in existence prior to the internet, and new media refers to that mass communication that we rely on today through social media primarily, and often using social media as a news source, which I'm not sure how well that actually works. So if we look at questions that you might want to consider or notes to take down for yourself regarding this advertisement and kind of how to access it, you might consider, okay, well, what are the symbols? What are the metaphors? Where are they and what do they mean? Are there visual cues that lead you towards symbols or metaphors? Are there different levels of meanings in these visual cues? So you might begin by considering who the three little pigs represent. Are they criminals, heroes, everyday people? What about the big bad wolf? Who does he represent? And how is this similar, or how does it deviate from fairy tale? So if we look at this a little further, so the wolf is a forgotten or overlooked victim. He's almost superfluous throughout the commercial. The three pigs boil him to death, and but that's never really considered and only ever slightly kind of looked at. The pigs shift from sort of in the beginning either these criminals that have murdered the wolf, but have murdered him because he was trying to huff and puff and blow their house down. So they're actually trying to protect their property. They then shift from that to criminals that have committed murder and also insurance fraud. They then quickly shift to victims of the bank and corporations and mortgages, and they're losing their house. And then they become heroes against a system of oppression. And they are used, their representation is used to start a riot. So if we move over to the other side, I'm talking about this side here. What contemporary problem is this popular and respected newspaper, The Guardian, from the United Kingdom trying to address? And so when this advertisement was first released, economic insecurity, not that it's solid now, but economic insecurity, especially with mortgages and especially in the United States, was quite rampant and serious plight for the average American. So they were at that time looking at a very real problem in their own country, but also outside of it. What is the point or the message intended by the makers of this advertisement? Is it successful? Why or why not? So, what is the point, or we might consider what is being sold? And remember, commercials are never selling newspapers or magazines or makeup or cars or clothes or cleaning products. They're always selling something else. So you actually have to consider, well, what is this commercial selling? And obviously, you want to say, oh, it's selling, the newspaper, The Guardian. But isn't it selling something else? Isn't it suggesting that we are all in a way more connected than we used to be? And notice like how they shift perspectives and how they shift languages and how they present not a nation but a global community, and the use of hashtags and texts and posts. Almost that, and I think Hickey might have meant this, Colin Hickey may have meant by one body, one channel, that the news used to be something that was handled by specialists. And now it's something that seems to be almost in the hands of anyone who's sitting at a keyboard. So there are good and bad things about that. The Guardian is suggesting to us that this is a good thing, that all of us together reveal and expose certain things and are able to get at, as they say, the whole picture or the whole truth. And they call this open journalism. So something that journalism that's suddenly thrust open to anyone. And you have to decide, well, how do you feel about that? Do you think that's a good thing? And if you think it's a good thing, why? Do you think it's a bad thing? And if you think it's a bad thing, why? So you actually have to come up with your own opinion regarding that. So you want to remember that critical engagement is always connected, or certainly directly connected, to an ability to write, and not only academically, but write well and concisely, because it actually is going to reveal to you what you think, what is your opinion, and hopefully what is your opinion with evidence. So, and then I've just given you a list of kind of what academic writing incorporates, and it demonstrates the following. It's informed by academic literature, and I use that very loosely because we've just watched a commercial, and debates in the subject matter, kind of like, even if you debate yourself, like, what does this mean in a broader context? There are clear interpretations, gives an accurate description of the issue, and sometimes it doesn't, and you need to change what you think. Is what you think provable? Is it solid? You need to always investigate underlying assumptions, yours and the materials. So it's almost as if you have to step outside of yourself and look at something with as little investment as possible, if that makes sense. In any event, that is the end of this example of critical engagement. It's kind of a difficult one. I will try to come up with one that's a little easier and maybe straightforward. But until next time, take care of yourself and have a wonderful week. Bye.